Hello everyone, I'm Taisei Komoria, and now I will make a presentation of final project. And do you like hot spring? For me, I really love the hot spring. So I choose hot spring as a topic for the final project. The reason why I choose hot spring as a topic for the final project is because I often go to hot springs with my friend, and many young people in Japan tend to go to hot springs after they became university or college students. In addition, Japan is famous for hot springs, and hot spring is one of the Japanese culture, which is boasted to the world. In this time, I focused on 3 tips of hot spring. Those are how to create hot spring, what is the history of hot spring, and what is the difference between hot springs in Japan and in other countries. Before introducing the 3 tips of hot spring, I will explain what is hot spring and the definition of hot spring. According to the hot springs law, the water is at least 25 degrees Celsius when it surfaces, and it contains more than a defined amount of natural mineral components. So firstly, I want to introduce how to create hot spring. Actually, there are roughly 3 types of ways that hot springs are made. But in this time, I will introduce one way which is the most famous way of the 3. This is called volcanic hot springs. This type of hot spring is formed by the heat and gases from volcanic magma. At a relatively shallow point within the layers of a volcano, you find a chamber formed when magma from deep in the earth rises up and gathers. This may have been heated to well over 1000 degrees Celsius. Rainwater and snow sink deep into the earth and is heated by the magma chamber. This underground water rises, and when it gets near the surface, can burst out through channels and cracks as a naturally flowing spring. Alternatively, channels near the surface can be drilled down to, and finally an onsen created. Then I want to cast on one question to you. Do you know the number of hot springs in Japan? The answer is 3,000. Today, it is said that there are 3,000 hot springs and 27,000 sources of hot springs in Japan. Secondly, what is the history of hot spring and how was hot spring culture made? As I said, today it is said there are 3,000 hot springs in Japan. Because of this, hot spring is one of the Japanese culture. Then I will explain the history of hot spring. Although it is not known when hot springs first appeared in Japan, there are descriptions of emperors' excursions to hot springs in old books, such as the Nihon Shoki, Chronicles of Japan, and it seems that the existence of hot springs was already widely known in the Nara period. Japan is geographically located on a volcanic belt and has many volcanic hot springs, so it is assumed that the existence of hot springs was known from early historical times. Based on the descriptions in the Nihon Shoki, Tamatsukuri Onsen, Arima Onsen, Dogo Onsen, and Shimahara Onsen, and Akkyu Onsen are considered to be hot spring resort known since ancient times. The last one is, what are the differences between hot springs in Japan and hot springs in other countries? The biggest difference between hot springs in Japan and hot springs in other countries is purpose. What does this mean? This means that we have different purposes of hot springs. In Japan, people go to hot springs in order to relax and take a rest. On the other hand, in other countries, such as America, people go to hot springs as one of the leisure. Therefore, hot springs in Japan are basically set the temperature of water to be able to relax. But hot springs in other countries, such as America, are not set the temperature of water, and they are kept at original temperature because they spend enjoyable time with swimming and playing in the water in hot springs. Moreover, people in Europe go to hot springs for medical procedures. In Germany, Austria, France, and other countries, therapeutic sanatoriums have been created for recuperation, where medical insurance also applies. Therefore, in Europe, bathing in hot springs is often recognized as a medical procedure. These therapeutic sanatoriums are called quarto, and a type of spa therapy sanatorium. A quarto is a place where good surrounding natural environment, including climate, scenery, appropriate recreational and therapeutic facilities, professional doctors, and therapists are available. Also, there are several other regulations, and it is very popular because of the high quality of the environment. Conclusion. Most of hot springs in Japan are created by the type of volcanic hot springs. According to the Nihon Shoki, Chronicles of Japan, the existence of hot springs was already widely known in the Nara period. The biggest difference between hot springs in Japan and hot springs in other countries is purpose. The next time you go to hot springs, why don't you think of how to create the hot springs, the history of hot springs, and the difference between hot springs in Japan and in other countries instead of just relaxing. Thank you for listening.